Good afternoon. I'm excited to be able to talk to you about something that I've put a lot of research into and that is actually very, very important to you personally, whoever is listening, and to me as the presenter, because it's an issue that is always big in our lives, and that is the economy. It's always talked about during elections and things like that. And I want to talk about two different possible systems that we could use to run this economy. Uh, and I understand this is it's a very hot button kind of topic, but I just want to look at the facts of these two different systems and kind of what they're based off of and what their goal is. Um, these two systems are very, very different. In fact, if you wanted to compare them to two different things that you think about, you could think about how north and south are very different, how hot and cold are very different, how hard and soft are very different. They're very, very different, but they exist on a spectrum, meaning they're not completely unrelated. It just means that one is this extreme all the way over here, and another is this extreme all the way over here. So, I guess what the main point of this is I want to talk about is I want to talk about how economy is the battleground for these two systems, and socialism, which is one of the systems we're going to be talking about, it focuses more on having a planned economy, with very, very much detail in what is being produced that year, and we'll get a little bit more into what all that means. And it also focuses on equality of outcome, whereas capitalism, which is the other system that we're going to be talking about, is a market economy theory, and we're going to get into that a little bit, and it focuses more on equal opportunity. So to understand what those two systems are and how they operate, we need to understand exactly what the economy is. The definition for it by the Cambridge English Dictionary is the system of trade and industry by which the wealth of a country is made and used. Now that doesn't mean a whole lot to me, but to put it in a simple man's tongue, you might say it's the supply and demand of goods in a country, the buying, the selling, and the employment of a national perspective. That's what the national economy is. And it's not just one cohesive unit. It's a bunch of smaller economies like your state's economy, your city's economy, your local community's economy. All of those together make the national economy. And socialism and capitalism have very different methods of operation on that economy, such as you might say that socialism and capitalism are parents and the economy is a child, and just how two different parents have two different styles of parenting. These two methods of operation have two very different methods of operation on the economy. So first we're going to talk about socialism. And socialism has a lot of control over what happens in an economy. It's very closely related to what's called a planned economy. And what that means is a really good example of like a socialist business would be the government would come to a business and tell them, you are going to make 8 million pairs of shoes this year, no more and no less. That's a little bit of a simplified version of kind of what would happen in a socialistic community or socialistic country with a business, and they focus on trying to level the playing field between people. That's really what they wanted to do. Socialism was brought about because it wanted to end the disparity in wealth between people by giving them, though different jobs, they wanted basically people to make all the same money and have the same opportunities and same outcomes as everyone else. That's what socialism was all about. And it relies very heavily on planning an economy, telling people how much they're going to make in money, telling businesses what they're going to make and how much of that product that they're going to make. Eugene Goodhart was an author of a paper named "What We Talk About and Don't Talk About When We Talk About Socialism," and he quoted this. He says, "It does not mean," speaking of socialism here, he says, "it does not mean all power to the central government, but it grants a large role in the economy." And capitalism could not be more different than that. Capitalism is all about supply and demand. How much of this product do we have? What is the supply? And how much do people want this product? That's the demand. And in this type of economic theory, businesses decide how much they make of something based off of how much consumers want. capitalism relies on the market, which is us, to tell businesses what we want through the dollar. How much, if you look at like an iPhone is a great example. How much does it cost to make an iPhone? How much do people want iPhones? If people really want iPhones, then the price of an iPhone is going to go up, especially if the cost to make an iPhone is fairly high. But if people don't really want iPhones, then the cost of iPhones are going to go down because they're not as in demand. That people don't want them as much, and so businesses aren't going to make them as much. Milton Friedman wrote a book called Capitalism and Freedom in 1962, and later two men reviewed that book, and those two men's names were William Brett and Malcolm McDonald. They quoted and they said, "The market economy will serve society well if it is allowed to function without regulation and control." And that is kind of the whole basis of what capitalism is all about. Capitalism does not want regulations on businesses. It doesn't want control on businesses. It just wants to allow the market, which is us, to decide how much we're being paid, how much we buy of something, and what price we sell things at. That's what capitalism is all about. And while these two systems are very, very different, they also are on a spectrum. You would think that these two systems couldn't coexist in a country, but they do. Pretty much every single country in the world has some form of socialistic tendencies in it and also capitalistic tendencies in it. The most pure socialistic country you would look at would be like North Korea. The most pure capitalistic society you would look at would be something like New Zealand. In America, we have a capitalistic leaning society, but we also have socialistic principles in our society like the welfare and Medicare and Medicaid, which proves the point that though these two systems are very, very different, they exist on a spectrum. They exist in striking distance of each other, I guess you could say. And that's what capitalism and socialism are all about.